Wonderful. It's wonderful to see all of you today. My name is Alyssa Cohn. I'm an Inc. columnist. I'm also the author of From Startup to Grown Up, and I'm an executive coach. And I don't know about all you, but I have certainly noticed the increased obsession with productivity and workflow tools in the past couple of years of the pandemic. So we have an incredible panel to kind of weigh in today to talk about what they've seen inside of their own companies and with their customers. So with that, I'm going to kick off this panel. I'm going to start with you, Kim, right here. How has this period of rapid acceleration, the obsession, right, with productivity, changed workflows in terms of the way you guys have been dealing with them, and also what you've seen from customers?
Yes. So first of all, thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Joaquim. Everybody calls me Kim. I'm the CEO of Typeform, and what we do is we enable our customers to build delightful interactions online. To your question, I would say that we have been living through an unparalleled time with the pandemic. This has changed a lot how our customers work and how we in our own company work. In terms of productivity, this was one of the elements that we worried at the beginning. We sent everybody home, for instance. Will productivity change? As a startup, we always want to grow and grow very fast. And to do that, we need to do a lot of things, right? So productivity, production in general is very important. In that sense, we had to change also how we work and start adopting new tools and new ways of working. So let's say our communication, our workflows changed.
Inside of your company?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think you are not alone. You know, Christine, I'd love to hear from you. How did you sort of see cultural change inside of your company and then also with consumers, the customers and users of yours?
Yeah, to kick things off, hi everybody, my name is Christine Spang. I'm the founder and CTO of a company called Nihilus. What we do is we make essentially building blocks for integrating with the data in communication channels. So developers use us so that they don't have to build all the way from scratch everything around connecting to things like email, as well as doing like automated scheduling, things like that. To dive into Alyssa's question, when it comes to culture, I think one thing that the pandemic has really kind of emphasized is like everyone has to think more about sort of measuring output versus sort of like kind of monitoring what's going on within a company just by kind of seeing people at work at their desks. And I honestly think this is a really good thing. Definitely at Nihilus, like, we've seen employees being able to have more flexibility around kind of structuring their personal lives and like a good emphasis on sort of trust in managerial relationships where the whole point of kind of working for a company is that you're hired to do a job, to produce something, and the best way to do that is to empower people to do that job and then to get out of their way and to judge them by what output they produce for the company. And so I think it's really good that a lot of the sort of things about how people what time they're spending in the office, things like that, have sort of been de-emphasized. And then I guess it would also echo kind of what Kim was saying about sort of like tools becoming more important. And one thing that we've really seen with our customers is that people were moving things that used to be sort of done on paper, things like that, to digital processes for like a decade beforehand. But the pandemic has made things move much more quickly, and I think it's also put a bigger squeeze on just the amount of sort of people time that's available, and so people want to try to get more done with less. So there's been a big acceleration in people looking to software vendors to help them get more efficient, to help augment their own teams, and trying to not do everything themselves, and instead to focus on what's my company really good at, and what can I sort of have another vendor do, and thus be more efficient.
Yeah, I love what you just said. I mean, in some ways, all of this time has, whatever you say, has all stepped back and look at what we're doing and reinvent in one way or the other what we're doing. I think that's really powerful. You know, that all said, we are remote from each other, and there's nothing like standing around the whiteboard together. Wouldn't you say, Andrey? So you created a process and a tool that helps people stand around the whiteboard together, but in a collaborative way. Could you tell us about that, and tell us what you've seen by way of the upside of collaboration during this remote time, and then maybe some of the downsides of collaboration?
Sure. Yeah, happy to be here. My name is Andrey Khusid. I'm the CEO and founder of Mira. We're a leading visual collaboration platform. We have 25 million people using our platform across the world, and more than 1,100 people working in our 11 hubs across the world. So I'm really thankful for all of you to using Mira and being so powerful community for us. And what we observe, the collaboration, way of how people collaborate definitely changing. I think we are in an era of digital-first collaboration. If we think what happened before pandemic, we all had to come to the same meeting room and we discuss, we brainstorm, we ideate, and now we all understand that we can do it differently and we can combine both in-person and asynchronous collaboration, both video presence and real presence. So I think that what's happening now is people trying to understand what they have to do and when, and where it's more important to be in person, and which will drive like trust between people, which will drive maybe better engagement or team building, and where it's worth to be asynchronous or do it through video conferencing and digital whiteboarding. So I think that we are reinventing how we do these things, and with kind of the power of digital-first collaboration is not unlocked fully. There are a lot of opportunities that can be fixed or built. So I think that we are still not we still can be better in how we organize workshops virtually, or how we have unstructured brainstorms virtually, and we try to build that experience to make people feel the same if they're present or not present in the same room. So that's how I see this is changing these days.
Yeah, that's lovely. It sounds like it's still day one for you.
Yeah,
a lot of room still.
And one thing that we see is kind of is increasing is interest how you can drive this collaboration being in digital-first world, and this is required change in skills, because a lot of people before, when they sit in the same room, it's easy to keep your audience engaged. When you are not in the same room, where people have to be engaged through several hours during the workshop, it's a very different skill.
Right.
And I think every manager, every leader have to acquire those skills to bring this engagement to the distributed team.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge for all of us, and we are growing this challenge.
Right, and everyone's kind of navigating. I guess I'm going to ask all three of you, is there something that's surprising that's happened during this time of remote work, of hybrid work, of uncertainty? Some surprising thing that you've now added to your roadmap or seen your customers do? Could you want to tell a story, Joaquim?
Yes. I think that we were very positively surprised that in the face of these uncertain times, people immediately are there available to help the colleague, to help, let's say, other co-workers, but also to help the customer. No? Mm-hmm. And we've seen, let's say, lots of customer businesses being affected, like, for instance, in restaurants and small businesses that had just an in-person, let's say, or offline type of business, and they needed support, no? And everybody is like very, very fast and immediately ready to help. So that's maybe that empathy towards the situation of the other person. No?
Right.
It's been great seeing how humans can be so nice.
Yeah, that is lovely, and has brought out in many cases, the best of us, for sure.
Yes.
And it sounds like inside of your company, there's that ethos and drive towards the customer to be supportive and helpful as you go. Yeah.
Yes, and that's a focal point. I think it helps us, let's say, be the best of ourselves.
Yeah, that's lovely. Either of you, Christine, would you like to share either something surprising on your roadmap or what you've seen from your customers?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure our roadmap changed a whole lot through the course of the pandemic. Sort of the main theme for our roadmap has always been about trying to match the level of abstraction in terms of the building blocks we provide with what people expect. And I would say that like the biggest trend that's been emphasized is sort of a shift towards what people call low code, no code, where sort of the concept and the audience of people who used to sell just to developers is being expanded over time. And one thing I kind of like to think of is that the current generation of people who are just entering the workforce are more and more becoming what I like to call code natives. Whereas like the previous generation that grew up with smartphones, it's like, well, they were digital natives. They knew how to like interact with the web and with mobile and things like that. But now more and more there's this, people are bringing in sort of this like structured thinking to the workplace. And the big trend there is people want to build tools that allow people that don't necessarily have a programming background, but have that sort of skill of structured thinking to do things that used to have to be done by programmers. So I think a lot of companies out there, and this is definitely something that we've doubled down on, is how do we build the right building blocks that can be manipulated by people with that kind of structured thinking that don't require writing a ton of code. So that's probably the thing that I would add.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Andrey, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I'll give you one example. We have a lot of consultants and professional services who are using our platform. And what's happening now is they start to work with their remote clients. Before, they had to have people on the ground to work with the customers, to come and to organize workshops and to do consulting projects. And what completely changed is that they build their practices into Mira and tools like Mira, and now they can run this practice across the globe. So the only limit is the language and the time zone, but they can acquire customers across the globe. And that's amazing because best consultants are not like concentrated in one place. They live all over the world, and you can come and hire people who will fit your needs most, and it will be almost as efficient as it's in person. So that's a big shift that we see, for example, in this industry specifically.
Yeah. That's wonderful because it's opened up so many things, right? Again, there's been so much pain and sorrow and difficulty in this pandemic, but there's been such an opening in so many ways. One thing you touched on before, Andrey, was also this notion of building new skills. So I'm curious, maybe I'll start with you, Joaquim. What skills do you think, just a couple, that employees have to build now for the current state, and what skills do leaders have to build now?
Yes, so I think maybe I would emphasize communication, because it's very different to communicate well, to be able to coordinate our activities as a team when we are, let's say, not in person, right? So, and it's very important to do that in a way that we do not leave anybody behind. No? So it is very easy to talk with somebody in a video call, take some decisions, forget about maybe some other people that then don't have the context and therefore are lost in when they see some changes and they don't understand those changes. And so I think communication is definitely something that written and non-written communication is very important.
Yes, totally emphasize that. And also the deliberateness of communication, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Christine, I know communication is one of your top top topics too. Anything else that you'd like to add in terms of what leaders need to build now, the skills for the new world, and then also employees, what skills they need to build now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one thing that everyone's sort of struggling to figure out right now is like how to sort of connect and build like the sense of community and connection to a mission when people might be super distributed across the world. People have different things that are going on in their particular geos. Like one thing that I've sort of had in the back of my mind all throughout the pandemic is that, when I'm speaking to the company, the pandemic might be in a very different stage in, Canada versus Europe versus the United States, or even different parts of those countries. And so, I felt like I had to read the newspaper more often and sort of be like, what's going on in the UK, to make sure that I don't sound silly when I'm sort of talking about, what's going on for people. So I think that one thing is that like adapting to sort of having people in more different places and how to speak to people in that way. And it sort of comes down to like just companies are made up of more diverse people in many different ways, and that requires like quite a lot of sort of like meta thinking about what does that mean and how do I address a group that doesn't have as many sort of core commonalities.
Yeah, and maybe more situational awareness as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's very powerful, and sort of combining
And especially
all
when
those
you don't have that immediate feedback of someone
Right.
being in the same room. It's like, how do you get feedback? You have to ask for it very explicitly, and you have to repeat it. You have to try to make people feel comfortable. The same things, but like, I feel like we're all kind of getting our sort of digital feet under us and
That's
having
right.
to, push through that feeling of like awkwardness in order to establish this new norm.
Yeah. Andrey, something that I know we're both passionate about, my favorite topic, is meetings. And meetings, and you were saying to me before that you think it's important now to really be more crisp and precise in how we run meetings and how we facilitate. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, I hate meetings, you know.
That's what I said.
It's like, and we all hate like unproductive meetings. So what we all want to have is great outcomes. That's what we want to have. And of course, we love to touch base with people. Of course, we like to brainstorm. Of course, we like to align. At the same time, there are a lot of ways how you can get the outcomes without like having meetings, and full your calendar is just baked with meetings. So for me, it's extremely important to figure out like how you balance kind of this productivity and outcomes with engaging workplace where we can intake people's perspectives, where we can ask, get some insights that might be missed if you just do it asynchronously with very productive asynchronous work. So that's how I think about it. And for us, we internally have a lot of things that are fully done asynchronously just because it doesn't require to me. At the same time, we're building our hubs across the world so people can feel themselves as a part of community and be connected on a human level and build trust. So we try to balance those things, and they don't come together in a lot of ways. It's just community is a big thing, and then outcomes in your work is a big thing. So how they should work together, that's a skill that we as the leaders have to grow and acquire along the way to drive this engagement inside the organization and drive outcomes together.
Yeah. I love the way you frame that, yeah.
And I say this is a great opportunity because in a way we have not completely rewired, right? So we have moved from the office to working from home, expecting the same efficiencies and effectiveness and productivity. And what Andrey was saying is powerful. No? How can we balance the synchronicity of some meetings that need to happen not in person, but face-to-face, with the asynchronous work that can still happen. Because in the end, when you're back-to-back from, I don't know, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. In meetings, in video meetings, I'm sure there must be a better way.
Yes, I don't know much, but I know there must be a better way. I love that. Well, we have 3 leaders on this stage, so I'm just curious, you know, as you've been operating all these things together and also going through your own state, you know, Andrey, I'm going to start with you. How have you grown as a leader during this time?
It's a great question. I'm learning something every day, and I think the biggest topic for me was decision making recently, because with the growth of the company, with the growth of the market that we experience, it's extremely hard to operate in the way you operated before. We added more than 800 people in the last 18 months. And it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of decision making. We went into several verticals simultaneously in recent 18 months. We had to grow like our presence across the world, and it all requires quick and at the same time quality of decision making. So for me, that's the biggest topic. And I work with my coach, and we discuss that a lot, like how everyone can do this like faster with like not going into small details, but at the same time bringing the quality and strategic strategic perspective when you make those decisions.
Amazing.
So that's the biggest topic for me. And at the same time, like the organization completely changed. So I was in the office with 200 people before pandemic, and now we're going back to offices, and it's like 1,100 people in a lot of places. And for me, as a leader, communication skills that we mentioned before are critical, and I know that I can be way better in this, both asynchronous communication and synchronous communication. So this is a challenge, and I'm trying to learn from more experienced founders who run like multi-thousand companies, multi-thousand people companies, how they do this, how they are effective at this scale, because it's not the same dynamics as it was like with the 200 people in the same room.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Andrey, thank you. That's really helpful. Christine, what would you say about that? How have you grown as a leader?
I feel like I have a lot of overlaps with you, Andrey, in that at the start of the pandemic, Nihilist was about 50 people, and now it's a bit over 200. So it's kind of crazy to join our all hands and sort of see the number get bigger every week. And yet, most of those people, it's like I haven't met those people in person. So, it's a very different situation. But I think that kind of one thing that I've learned is that, going past 50 people, you just can't actually know all those people like personally. So figuring out how to sort of interact with people that maybe I only chat with every once in a while, and I never establish like a personal relationship with that person. And then also like at every sort of like level of abstraction, like your job as a founder really changes. So you always have to figure out, like, one, what do I do? And then two, how do I get satisfaction from what I'm doing? Because the feedback cycle is very different, and often it just keeps getting longer and sort of more abstract. So it's like harder to get that sense of satisfaction from like, I shipped a thing, or like when you're just managing a team, it's like, oh, I could see what my team shipped. But then as you kind of get even further away, it's like, you sort of have to develop new ways of seeing, am I doing the right thing or not? And kind of develop more of an inner compass.
Yeah, so the inner compass and the shift in your mental state on that. That's really helpful. Great. Joaquim, what would you say? And you come from this also having had a lot of experience and sort of consulting and other experiences. So I'm curious, how would you say you've grown as a leader during this time?
I think that difficulties, these situations stretch us, and we learn in many different dimensions. The one that maybe I would emphasize personally is that when we go to work and we go to the office, let's say there's an element or a dimension of us, the professional dimension, that is there, and it almost occupies everything, right? But through this pandemic and working from home, I think what's been very visible is that other dimension of everybody, the more personal dimension, no? For good and bad things, and for some fun things as well. Like you can see the cat walking behind the camera, or you can see, a piece of the room of that person, no? Where he's working from home. So I think it connects more with the whole person, not only the professional person, but also the personal person. And I think, in a way, it's good to make sure that everybody can bring all of each one to that work environment.
And you helping create safe space for that to happen.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a great place to end. Thank you, panel. Wonderful wisdom. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And if you're around, please welcome to Mira booth. We are there to meet you and to talk. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.